All right, good evening, everybody. This is Mack Bolen. I'm here with Rob Sherrill and our latest edition of Illinois Wrestling. And the season's winding down now. We've already had the regionals. Sectionals are taking place this evening. Real quick note on a national scale before we jump into the Illinois-specific stuff. Obviously, with Blair Academy blowing away both Bergen Catholic and Wyoming Seminary, I'd say pretty much at this point, you know, unless they have a complete meltdown at the prep nationals, I kind of say they're probably going to be the number one consensus.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You take the Ferraris out of their lineup, and
didn't matter.
You know who it was barely a blip on the radar, and they're just they just have 12 weight classes that are really stacked. They don't have a 45-pounder. They don't have a heavyweight. Doesn't really matter.
Nope.
They took on everybody, and they didn't emerge from those duels unscathed. It's interesting. Van Ness got pinned by Bartlett in the Wyoming Sem duel.
Right.
Still won. Still won by 11.
Yeah.
Howard beat Koliako pretty easily.
Yeah.
They still beat Bergen Catholic without any trouble. So it just doesn't seem to matter. They're always going to find their 8 or 9 guys that are going to get wins, which is always going to be enough to win a dual meet. So
yeah. All right, so we could, I guess, start with the regional results and begin probably with the Class 1A bloodbath, as we like to call it.
We certainly had a few of those. And,
how many out of the top 10 got eliminated?
Quite a few. We can start up in the Northwest, where it was pretty close there at West Carroll for a while. I think early in the finals, Dakota got it down to under 5 points against Lena Winslow Stockton. But once they got past 120, Lena Winslow was able to pull away, and they won by 10.5 points. And so that's unfortunately. Looking at my rankings here, that's number 3 eliminated at Dakota. That's number 5 eliminated Rock Falls, and that's number 10 eliminated Byron. All coming out of that one regional as far as top 10 teams go.
Unbelievable.
And then moving over to Sherrard, where we had 5 top 10 teams. Orion won or ranked teams. Orion won there. And so that, of course, eliminated number 9, Rock Island Alleman, number 11, Erie Prophetstown, number 16, Sherrard, and number 17, Sterling Newman. And so that took care of about 8 or 9 teams out of the Northwest. And of course, while those teams took turns knocking each other off, Aurora Christian managed to skate through the Aurora Central Catholic Regional without being tested at all. So they're of course in the into the state series, and they'll be taking on once we get to the dual sectional, they'll be taking on Stillman Valley, which won at Genoa Kingston, and Lena Winslow Stockton will be taking on Orion, and that as 2 top 10 teams battle there. And that'll all be taking place at Sterling Newman, which is hosting the dual sectional in the Northwest. And it's worth noting, of course, that as we move on through the rest of some of these regionals, heading down to the Petersburg Porter Regional, where we had some other, where we had the other regional matching 4 top 25 teams. That one took place at Clinton, with Hayworth winning over Auburn and Leroy, and the last top 25 team that was in action there was Petersburg Porta. So it's worth noting that although Auburn beat Hayworth in dual meet during the season, that took place at Abe's Rumble. And nevertheless, Hayworth is in and Auburn is out. And believe me, I'm very happy for Hayworth. They've had a great season and they deserve to be in. But of course, both teams deserve to be in, and
right.
The fact that both are not is a result of our flawed system.
Yeah.
But we did have a sectional, a regional down south with 2 top 10 teams at Carlisle, which included both Vandalia and Belleville Altoff. And despite Vandalia being without their 3-time state place winner, Tanner Swain, who is out of the state series with a broken hand.
What a shame.
One of their 2 best kids, they did have enough depth to win that regional over Belleville Altoff. And so they advanced to the sectional at their own place against Anna Jonesboro, which won their own regional. And the other sectional match down there is going to be Mount Carmel against Monticello, and Monticello won the Tolono Unity Regional over Tolono, which again beat Monticello in a dual meet this year, but they will not advance. And so that's what happened in the South, and in the regionals that feed into Pontiac this weekend, where the dual sectional is going to take place at Wilmington. We have Piatone going against Hope Academy in one dual sectional, and Prairie Central will go against Lyle, which won the midnight regional at Walther Christian, and Lyle managed to get into the final top 25 at number 22. So that is in a nutshell is what happened in 1A. And of course, because of so much clustering in these 1A regionals, we have 4 of our final 16 unranked teams in 1A, and including that one sectional match at Wilmington between Piatone and Hope Academy, and one of those teams will advance to the Elite Eight in 1A.
Yeah, it's a shame that for some reason we can't avoid disasters like that Carroll Regional, where you just overload one regional geographically with how many? I mean, again, top 10 teams.
Well, we have precedent, of course, in other team sports, and we've talked about the bracketed team sports, and we've talked about this for a couple of years now. That it is possible based on what happens in sports like basketball and soccer, baseball and football, to have those, and volleyball, to have those, seating within a sectional. And of course, we don't have any team seating here, even though the duels are what we use to crown a champion.
Yep.
And if this is something that those of you who are listening out there who are school folks need to continue to impress upon your IHSA rep, to continue to impress upon your IHSA board of directors representative, because those are the guys with the power. Those are the guys that take votes on proposals that come out of the advisory committees and out of the meetings of regional reps, like we'll have at the the State Farm Center next week at Champaign. We need to remind those folks that, yeah, you've only given us one state champion, but don't confuse that with the fact that you've given us 2 state tournaments.
Right.
And they need to be allowed to run independently of each other and to be bracketed and seeded and separated independently of each other.
Absolutely.
And it's something you owe the process, as far, because in light of the fact that you have granted us 2 separate state series events. So, that's something that you need to continue to impress upon your IHSA rep and your IHSA board of directors member, because those are the people that need to hear it.
All right. So
moving on
to 2A.
Moving on to 2A. We have, of course, some interesting matches coming up. We did have a couple of unranked teams that prevailed over ranked teams there. One being Chatham Glenwood in its own regional over Mount Zion and Rochester. Rochester, which had previously been in the top 25, did beat Chatham in a dual meet this year. See a pattern here. And of course, the other one where a lower ranked team prevailed. They did not meet in a dual meet this year, but to Antioch winning at the Lakes Regional over Lake Forest, which only finished 4th. So Lake Forest's best season in school history with 28 wins came to an end. And I think what we saw, particularly in that regional, which was a pretty tough regional, was simply the fact that Lake Forest's schedule finally caught up with them. They had about 3 guys that I had in fairly high in the rankings that did not even get out of the regional. So again, that's Lake Forest made huge strides this year. I think we might expect next year to see them perhaps make their schedule a little bit tougher in hopes of competing with schools like Antioch, competing with schools like Marion Central, to try to get out of that particular part of the state, which they'll need to do, especially with the coming reclassification with teams like Cary Grove and Deerfield.
Yeah, Deerfield going to 2A
now, moving into the classification, and we've said this time and again: schedule matters.
Yep.
You as much as you are your record, you are also who you wrestle.
Yep.
And that's something that Deerfield has continually shown at the 3A level.
Absolutely.
Something that with the schedule they wrestle they're continually going to show at the 2A level.
Yeah.
And, moving on to, so just finishing the thought for Northeast Illinois, of course, Antioch now goes from the frying pan into the fire as they go against Marion Central in the sectional at where is that sectional at? Where are my 2A pages here? Oh, it's at Wakanda.
Wakanda, okay.
Wakanda will be hosting those matches. And the other matchup at Wakanda will match two honorable mention teams, Niles Notre Dame going against St. Patrick. And Notre Dame has beat St. Patrick close in a duel during the regular season. So that will probably be close again at Wakanda. But Marion Central and Antioch have not met in a duel this year, so so that's going to be a very interesting one as they get together.
Interesting point on those two teams, because obviously we know Marion has where they're good, they're really good. I mean, they have some outstanding individuals, but I'm curious. Does
Antioch at the upper weights
at the depth? Yeah, I was going to say, can they possibly?
That's going to be that's one that's going to go right down to the end, depending on where they start. I think
because dual meets are depth.
They're both pretty good down low, and I think Marion Central has a little bit of advantage in the middle. Yep. Antioch has an advantage in the upper weights. So we're going to see it. I think that could very easily be a 7-7 match split between those two teams. And again, should mention that Marion Central, one of only two undefeated teams going into the duels. Unfortunately, both of them did win their regionals and make it through to this part of the season. Edwardsville in 3A is the other one.
Right.
So now moving west, where the team sectional is going to be at Sandwich. Washington will be going against Sycamore. No surprises there in terms of who won the regional. Yeah. Freeport, which was in the top 25 all year for the first time, pretty much all year for the first time. Strong second there, so they kind of validated their ranking. And the other match at Sandwich is going to be Coal City going against Dixon. And it's worth noting that Rock Island finished second at Dixon, and Rock Island was a team with a sub 500 record, and I'm sure a lot of people were wondering why I had Rock Island first made my top 25 when they were, I believe, 5-11, and I'm sure a lot of people were wondering why why Rock Island was in my rankings. Well, when you look at who they wrestled, here, and they moved up to the number 14 final spot in my rankings after finishing second at Dixon. But here are their losses. Manuka, Andrew, Yorkville, Grant, Joliet West, and Downers North in 3A. Some of those teams are top 25 teams. Geneseo and Dixon, highly ranked teams in AA, and Davenport, Assumption, and Bettendorf, Iowa, two of the better teams in eastern Iowa. So, as well as Coal City who they also
we know Call City is.
So no, so there's nothing even approaching a bad loss here, and obviously, right after the Christmas break, they beat Bolen, top 25 3A team, a match which I think surprised even them, but still, that's you're going to get on the map when you post wins like that. So Rock Island finished 10-11. They finished below 500, but that schedule obviously served them well as they got late into the season. So that's what happened in Northwest Illinois, and moving to Southern Illinois. We've talked about Chatham Glenwood.
Right.
They're going to be going against Olney Richland County, which is in the sectionals for the first time. They finished the season ranked number 23, and the other match there, where those matches are going to be wrestled at Taylorville. Is Mahomet Seymour against Troy Triad? Those two teams wrestled in the Super Duels. The AA Super Duels the second weekend of December, and they actually tied with Mahomet Seymour winning on criteria. That's always been an event at which Triad has never done well. They've always taken 3, 4, 5 losses on that particular day just because they don't have their lineup set. I think they have their lineup set now, and I expect Triad probably to win that match this time, but again, it'll be close. And Triad made it into my final top 25 at number 24 after winning their regional easily down at Jerseyville. And then finally up northwest, Oak Forest is going to be hosting that sectional. And we have, of course, the rematch between Lamont and Oak Forest.
Right.
Lamont had to hang on with a couple of guys out, had to hang on against Nazareth Academy winning by 5 points at Hinsdale South. And Nazareth Academy made its rankings debut in the final rankings at number 25. And the other match going on there, Noble Gary Comer won the Back of the Yards regional over Back of the Yards in De La Salle, and they'll be going against Evergreen Park, which won at Solorio Academy. So that's how it shook out at in 2A.
And a note on 2A, I think it's unfortunate again that Oak Forest and Lamont have to meet in a team sectional. And we both know that those are teams that should be in the Elite Eight.
Number 5 and against number 6 going on against at Oak Forest. Of course, Lamont won the first duel.
Yep.
They probably will again if they're at full strength, but I don't know if they will be. I think it'll be a little bit closer this time.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Just unfortunate to see them meet, this early on in an unseeded tournament, as we keep bringing up.
Moving on to 3A, of course, everything held true to form in the regionals feeding the Bolingbrook sectional.
Yeah.
We're going to have at the Sandburg dual sectional, Sandburg will be taking on Montini on one mat, and Marmion will be taking on Mount Carmel on the other. Of course, Marmion and Mount Carmel have met already, with Mount Carmel winning easily.
Yep.
But and we'll see what happens the second time around. Of course, Marmion and Sandburg have not met. You would like to think that this is as strong as Sandburg has been. They've got Sam Wojcik back in the lineup at 145.
Yeah.
They've got some other weights set now that they didn't have before.
No chance against
we'll
Montini.
see what happens. We'll see what happens.
They have no chance against Montini.
Well,
I hate to say that, but I just
probably not. But
probably not.
You're not going to see any. You're not going to see any walkovers this time.
No.
Although, of course, they're Sandberg's still going to have to find a way to cover up for 106 and 113. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, then moving on farther north, one of the most competitive of the dual sectionals will be a rematch of sectional matches. Those are taking place at McHenry, that dual sectional. Rematch of last year between Barrington and Libertyville.
Yep.
And of course, the other one will be Huntley against Prospect. That will also be a rematch of last year.
Yeah.
So same four teams in the four spots up there.
And Libertyville
just like the same four teams at Bolingbrook.
Right. Well, Libertyville winning one of the more competitive regionals we had.
Right. Absolutely. They won it over Deerfield and Warren. That was a regional that included four top 25 teams. The only one in AA, 3A.
3A, yeah.
Moving down to Joliet to Conant, of course. Oak Park River Forest had 12 regional champs, only 11 of which are competing this weekend. Of course, they have a vacancy at 160 for the time being. But they of course will take on Glenbard North in the sectional at DeKalb, and Glenbard North was actually trailing Wheaton North going into the finals in their regional, but they turned around a couple of matches and they were able to
pull it out.
Shame for St. Charles East that they lost Ben Anderson to injury. And that certainly, of course, as well as Mark Guerrero. And those two absences hurt them and their chances of winning the team title at Glenbard North as well. So
and that was
regionals are such a crapshoot as we have so often seen.
And like you said, and St. Charles East has been one of the top teams in 3A, but again, in a tough regional, they're out.
The other sectional match going on at DeKalb will be the host school there taking on Maine South, which prevailed over Taft and Evanston. So that's your picture in the DeKalb team sectional.
Yeah.
And in the South team sectional, form held there. We have Lockport going against Plainfield South. Which, of course, we called that one last week at Plainfield North. We thought Plainfield South would emerge as the winner, and they did. Because that's just tournaments are just not Oswego's strength. They were the class of that regional in duels, but of course we don't have a system that rewards dual or acknowledges dual qualification. So. Oswego, which only finished 4th, is out.
Yep.
And Plainfield South is in. They'll be taking on Lockport, which won at Andrew.
Yeah.
And interesting match between the other unbeaten in the state, Edwardsville, which enters their match 26-0, going against Lincoln Way West, which won at Bradley. And that'll be an interesting one. Edwardsville is very good down at the bottom.
Yep.
They're very good in the upper weights. They're a little bit vulnerable in the middle, but which might be a place where Lincoln Way West could make some hay. But I expect Edwardsville to prevail in that one.
And I just want to say it's great
spots.
It's great to see that the kind of season Edwardsville is having is awesome. They've got a Hall of Fame inducted coach, downstate team, undefeated, and that's going to be probably one of the better sectional duels we're going to see in Class 3A this
I think when
we get to that.
The sectional duels in 3A, that one between that one between Edwardsville and Lincoln Way West has a chance to be pretty good, although Edwardsville's best dual win is over Manuka, which went pretty close with Lincoln Way West early in the year. So, matchups from one team to the next are never completely the same.
Right.
But I think Edwardsville's in pretty good shape there. I think probably way up north, Barrington Libertyville is probably the most.
That'll be a good one
of the 8 duels that we're going to see.
That'll be a good one.
I think Barrington will probably pull that one out, but that's one that's going to be the most competitive of the 8, I think.
Okay, so looking at the individual sectionals we have coming up, are there any?
What we're seeing starting tonight, of course, at our 4 sites at each classification. Starting with 1A, and it's interesting. Remember last year, there has been some reshuffling of these sectionals, and the Hope Academy sectional last year was far weaker than the other 3, and as we all remember, there were only 5 ranked wrestlers in that sectional, and that's about the number of state place winners they had as we forecast. Well, Pontiac which has been reshuffled, taken some of the teams from farther to the southwest, in addition to the northeast, is a little more balanced than that was last year, and yet 61 top 10 wrestlers coming out of the Byron sectional.
Wow.
It's by far the strongest sectional in any of the 3 classifications. So almost half of the top 10 wrestlers in 1A coming out of that Byron sectional. 6 out of the top 10 at 126.
Wow.
Which is the most of any 1A sectional. 5 of the top 10 at 6 other weights: 138, 145, 160, 170, 195, and 220. So you look particularly at those middle and upper weights at Byron, really stacked across the board. They don't have less than 3 of the top 10 in any weight class, and they have 61 on the top 140. They also have 5 number 1s, which is the most of any classification, and that includes 3 from Aurora Christian,
right?
Joel Mylan at 126, and the two defending state champions, Cameron Johnson at 126 and Noah Villarreal at 132.
Yeah.
And they also have the number ones at 145 in Nolan Throne of Rock Ridge, and at 152 in Brody Ivy of Sterling Newman. And looking at matches that are going on in this session tonight, Johnson gets the freshman from Sterling Newman, Will Rude, in the second round tonight. And also tonight at 126, Ethan Meisenberg of Orion against Mary Roby of Lena Winslow Stockton. Tonight, Villarreal also gets Noah Schneery of Orion. And Ivy gets Trent Sharpman of Orion. Boy, I'll tell you, Orion got some really horrible
tough draws. I was just going to say that. Tough draws.
Regional champion, they would have been a little bit, and such one, unfortunately for them, was not the case.
So
looking at the semifinals tomorrow, looking ahead a little bit, you've got a number one against number two in a semifinal at 106 with Milan going against Andrew Herbst of Oregon. And also at 285, you have yet another rematch between two state champions. That at 285, Ian Kuehl, the defending champ from Lena Winslow Stockton, going against Logan Lee of Orion, the champ 2 years ago, and they've split 3-2 matches this year. So no reason to think it won't be some score very similar to that again this year. And on the other side at 285 in the semis, Tyler Ellsbury of Byron, who beat Kuehl in the regional this past week, going against Derek Johannick of Wheaton Academy. So for the big four there at 285 meeting in the semis tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
So really, at every weight class, we've got pretty stacked semifinals here. So that's kind of how it goes at Byron. You just park yourself in front of those mats for the semifinals, because they're gonna look at like the finals at a lot of the other sectionals.
So looking at 2A, what would you say sectional wise 2A? What's our bloodbath in 2A? Looking at individual sectionals.
For the most part, it's probably a Geneseo. It's not quite as strong as it was last year. They do have 47 top 10 wrestlers there, including 6 at 126. So another sectional where at 126 it's really stacked. They also have 5 number ones at Geneseo. 3 of them from Washington. Joey Pape at 120, Jared Head at 160, and the state champion down 2 weights from last year, Jace Punky at 195. And at 126, Dean Hamidi of Joliet Catholic, and the other another defending state champion, and also a defending state champion at 145, Nick Termini of Burlington Central. And unfortunately, the top looking at 126, you've got a situation where tonight in the second round, Brody Norman, who's number 2 at that weight from Washington, is going to meet Michael Myers of Rock Island, another top 10 kid. And the the winner is going to get Hamidi in a semifinal.
In the semifinal.
So potentially 1 against 2 in a semifinal.
Yeah.
They met the week before the regional, which with Hamidi winning that match over Norman 7-5 in overtime. And this is a direct quote from somebody who told me a little bit about that match, who watched it, had no dog in the hunt, said, and this is a quote, "Horrible officiating cost Norman the match."
Okay.
So I would expect another match in the semifinals that could go to overtime again, just like this one. So that's a number 1 against number 2 we're potentially going to see in a semifinal at Geneseo. And some other 132, also a very tough weight class there, where tonight Alex Friddle of Coal City, who is undefeated, 3-time 1A take one place winner, is going against Austin O'Donoghue of Lincoln. That match taking place tonight. And in the other bracket, Victor Guzman of Rock Island going against Dylan Grigsby of Canton, as 2 other top 10 guys go against it on the other side at 132. And so those are a couple of 126 and 132 in particular, very tough coming out of Geneseo. So now, interesting to note, there is only another match that this will take place in the semifinals in 2A. Potentially the only 2 wrestlers that could meet this weekend that are undefeated. That'll take place in the semis at 220 at Mahomet Seymour. Jacob Bullock of Cahokia, the returning state runner-up, Old Dominion signee, going against Dawson Pruitt of Westville, who's risen up to number 5. And Pruitt has also obviously benefited a lot from having Hayden Kopass of the heavyweight as a workout partner, and certainly Kopass probably has benefited from having him as a workout partner as well. Kopass will meet Luke Luffman, the 2-time state champion from Urbana, in the finals for the 3rd time this year. It was 3-1 the first time. It was 14-2 the second time in the regional. So we'll see if it's any closer in the sectional.
Yeah. So going on 3A.
3A. It's pretty. I'm going to say that in 3A, we probably have a little more balance from one sectional to the next. As far as individual strength, it's still Bolingbrook as far as the numbers, the pure numbers, but not by a long shot. It's pretty close. Bolingbrook has 41 top 10 wrestlers competing, and that's with no top 10 wrestlers at heavyweight. There's no top 10 wrestlers at heavyweight at Bolingbrook, but they do have 5 top 10s at 138. They have 5 top 10s at 145, and they also have 5 number 1s. 3 of them are from Montini.
Right.
Dylan Ragusin at 126, and they're 2 state champions. Jake Stiles at 152,
and Christensen.
Peter Christensen, of course, now national top number 1 at 195.
195, yep.
And the other 2 from Marmion, Diego Sotelo at 106, and another defending state champion at 140, top 5, Trevor Chumbley.
Chumley.
So five number ones there. Some matches going on tonight at Bolingbrook that the peeps there, I'm sure, are enjoying. At 138, Connor Gaynor of Mount Carmel is going against Jacob Dato of Marist. That going on tonight. A couple of interesting ones at 45 with Chumley taking on Robert Major of Downers South and Philip Sims of Mattia Valley going against Miles Hoey of Mount Carmel.
Oh, yeah.
Also at 160, Brad Gross of Marmion gets Ashton Breen of Mount Carmel tonight. So, and then some matches in the semifinals that look like are going to happen. Those tomorrow afternoon at Bolingbrook. Nick Gonzalez of Montini against Jordan Blue of Mount Carmel at 106. Jaffe of Marmion against Uribe of Mount Carmel at 120. Zacconi of Stagg against Bernoski of Montini. That could be a great one at 132. Fleck of Marmion against Nolan of Sandburg. And the winner of the Gaynor-Dato match against Caliendo of Batavia. Those look like your semifinals at 138. The Sims Hoey winner is going to feed into Mayora at 145. Styles going to probably has Justin Major of Batavia feeding into him. Punzel of Naperville Central against Geraci of Montini, and Valori of St. Rita against Daum of Marmion. Probably your semis at 170. Benoit of Mount Carmel against La Barbara of Mattia Valley at 82 in a semi. And Christensen going against Kershidov of West Aurora in a semi at 195. So those some of your highlights of Bolingbrook. Looking at Conant, of course, we have actually let's move to Joliet Central next.
Sure, go ahead.
They're right behind Conant with the 39 in the top 25, in the top 10, including 4 of the top 10 at 5 weight classes, 13, 20, 26, 52, and heavy. They have 3 number ones. 2 of them, of course, are from Edwardsville. Noah Certain at 120.
Certain, right.
Luke Odom at 138. And Baylor Fernandez of Lockport, who decided to move up to 160 for the region. And that that's good. That probably is a really great move for him because he's already beaten the primary competition that he has at 160. So that could wind up being a really great move for him. Let's see. Looking at some potential semifinals there. Yeah, I've got my pages all mixed up. But let's see. Joliet Central. Okay, get rid of those pages at Joliet Central. Here we go. Some semifinals worth looking at. Charlie Farmer of Moline against Jacob Makatange of Plainfield North at 106. Certain at 120 is going to be looks really good, with Certain going against Enzo Silva of Plainfield South.
Okay, yeah, Silva.
Matt Ramos of Lockport, who did actually wrestle his regional final, looked dominant doing it.
Good.
He'll get Alex Villar of Plainfield East in a semi. At 126, Moulton of Lockport should get Javid Estrada of Lincoln Way West. And Probably the best other semifinal there. Nick Stemmet of Yorkville against Nick Mihalievich of Lincoln Way East at 182. That's a semi, and that's really going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Conant, they have 35 in the top 5 and 4 number ones. 2 of them, of course, from Oak Park River Forest. Jacob Rundell at 113, Eddie Bolivar at 132,
yep.
And of course Abe Assad
at
North at 182, and Ramin Abraham of Evanston at 220. Some really good matchups at 220 tonight. These are Friday night matchups. DeMarco Lee of Lake Park against Jake Belizzi of Maine West. 2 top 5 guys there. And Abraham going against Lopez of Glenbard East. So 4 top 10 guys at 220 are going against each other, not in the semifinals, but tonight. So that's tonight. That's going to be really interesting.
Prelims, yep.
Tomorrow, good semifinal at 106 with Castleberry of Proviso East against Aranda of DeKalb. Assad is going to get Middlebrooks in a semi. John Halverson of Maine South will get Logan Roach of DeKalb probably in the other semi. And that'll be an interesting final. If Assad and Halverson meet, it'll be their first meeting since the finals of the Conant tournament all the way back at Thanksgiving, where Assad majored him by a score of 14-6. So almost 3 months before they meet again. So that could be an interesting one over there. And finally at Barrington, where they have 25 guys in the top 25, in the top 10 at their weights, along with 2 number ones, David Ferrani of
from Huntley, yep.
70, and Aiden Guttridge of Rockford East at 285. And looking at what's happening at Barrington, best semifinal will be at 132, where Danny Pacino of Libertyville and Jake Harrier of Jacobs are on the same side. There are a couple of good matches going on tonight between Sammy Spencer of Huntley and Brandon Murphy of Libertyville at 126, and Cody Goodman of Deerfield taking on Max Gomez of Stevenson at 195. So those the best Friday night matchups there, and then they'll all move on to
state
to next week. And
yep.
Tomorrow's Christmas Day for me, as for a lot of people, as we find out who we've been tracking for 2 or 3 months that finally pays it off with a trip to the state tournament.
Yeah, and interesting to note, of course, the top 3 from regionals go to sectionals. Top 4 are going to advance to state, and the state individual tournament, as we know now, is seeded in this year, is finally going to be a double elimination without the follow the leader BS. Thank God.
Which now, as a result, Thursday is going to become kind of a marathon session.
It will. It'll be a long one.
They're going to start at noon, and they have moved the quarterfinals for 1A and 2A up into an evening session now. There wasn't a standalone evening session before, but there is now. And my plan is to, for anybody that cares, and even if you don't, to arrive at the State Farm Center in time for that 1A, 2A quarterfinal session on Thursday. And because I'm going to go ahead and put in a half day at the office on Thursday, and then get in the car and head up I-24 and to I-57 to Champaign. So
and we'll be doing.
We'll see how that goes. But with that now leaves, for those of you who are besides me that might be counting these things, just 3 states left in America that don't do complete double elimination.
Right.
And that's those are Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Indiana. So Illinois has finally taken itself off a very what's becoming a more exclusive list.
Yep. And for those of you listening to, Rob and I will be on the Class 3A final broadcast.
Do announce our TrackCast.
We will be announcing the Class 3A finals on TrackCast, so you'll be able to catch us doing it live. And you know, last year, unfortunately, they just cut it down to one thing, but you know, one announcer. But it's great. Now we're back together, and we're probably going to be there for dual team state too. If I
I will not be at dual team state this year, but
okay. But we will be there for the Class 3A finals.
You'll be able to handle that one.
Yep.
But we'll be back in the saddle together for the 3A individual state. And please, everybody, subscribe to the TrackCast so you can get our expert commentary.
Yep. And again, as I always say, you know, if you want to contact myself or Rob, by all means, our email addresses are out there. And you watch the video, click a like, give us a thumbs up. If you have any criticism, as long as it's constructive criticism, not something like you guys suck. Just, you know, by all means, throw it out there. We'll try and accommodate. And again, we'll be back after the sectionals to preface the sectionals and looking forward to the state championship. And again, as we both mentioned, we will be on the broadcast, Class 3A individual state championship finals. I'm going to go ahead and say good night, Rob.
Let me just throw out there.
Shoot.
Well, obviously, what we want as many people as possible to watch our TrackCast, but all 3 mats for the finals are going to be broadcast. It'll be Kevin Burke for the 2A broadcast,
2A, and Mike Fest,
and Flashy will be doing the 1A broadcast.
Mike Fest on 1A.
So please remember, no matter which classification you want to watch, if you want to, float back and forth between the 3, it'll be Mack and I doing the 3A TrackCast. But please remember, no matter which one you want to watch, if you want to watch all 3 of them, there will be commentary on all 3. So please remember to catch all of us.
And both the guys who are doing 2A and 1A in Burke and Vest are experienced, seasoned, and they know the classes quite well. So it's good commentary.
They'll all be good.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go ahead and say good night, and we'll catch back up with you next week. And again, I say, if you like it, click thumbs up on the YouTube. If you want to subscribe. We do this all season long, and then later we'll do I'll do maybe some selective broadcasts during the off season. Again, for myself and Rob, good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.